Katowice.
Thank you, Kalaris and the guys down there on the desk. It is going to be a big match coming up next. Are you excited, Rotterdam?
Yeah, it's going to be fun. I don't think I've casted a single PvP yet being here, and obviously I love the matchup. I think it's very fun. Did get to watch a couple of them earlier on. MaNa's PvP looked good, but the Protoss he played against so far, they're obviously not on Drogo's level. This is a big match, man. You're really looking at two of the best Protoss in Europe. They're not Showtime, but they're pretty damn close to it. So this is going to be a lot of fun. Obviously, both of them already finished in the money. For the people who wonder how does this work, you know, they already passed lower bracket round 3, so they secured themselves at least $600. But obviously, they are here for so much more, Pick. Let's see who's going to still be in the running to make it to the group stage of the Intox 3 Masters World Championship.
Spawning down here in the bottom right-hand side of Abyssal Reef, our red Protoss player. It is Team Liquid's MaNa.
Still wearing the blue jersey. That's good news for Drogo. You know, it's the magic of the pink jersey.
Magic of the pink jersey.
Over on the left top side of Abyssal, we're looking at the main base of our French Protoss. It's PtitDrogo. Just realized that he's been with My Insanity for a while now. That's been quite a lengthy stay. I remember when he joined them a long time ago. At a certain point, I just kind of thought it's only a matter of time before Drogo joins Millennium, or right now Arma Team, you know, one of those big French organizations, because he's really making a big name for himself, but seems to be very happy with them.
It is really cool to see that. You know, I first met Drogo, didn't really know who he was, back in the MYI house. We were both living there in 2014, and I think he was on Nuit Blanche at the time, and they paid to send him over there. He was training really hard, and he suddenly started to get these great results, and you know, got picked up, and he just went from one thing to another, and now he really is just cemented as one of these top Protoss players in the European scene. It's
funny, right? Because 2016 was kind of a roller coaster year for Drogo. It started at an all-time high, finally picking up that first big tournament victory in DreamHack Leipzig back then, which was in January. He secured his first WCS points, was obviously in a great spot to make it to BlizzCon. But that's where it all went wrong, you know, just tournament after tournament, he dropped out early. Finally had one decent run, like 6-7 months later. But it always looked like he wasn't going to make it to the WCS Global Playoffs. But then in the end, 1 or 2 players dropped out. He secured a few more points. And suddenly he got it. I think he even got some points in the qualifiers of the Casper Cup. Like, that's how deep he had to, how deep he had to dig to still get there. And in the end, he actually had a very good showing, I think, at the Global Finals, even though he didn't end up going super far. His games were very competitive, very solid. Yeah. And I think he left a very good impression.
Definitely a player who did end up turning that year around a little bit. And I think the one thing many of us have been looking for in Drogo is, can he kind of cement his psychological focus on the game? Can he stop tilting as much? It's something we always talk about. You know, we sound like broken records, but it's something where there's been a few famous moments at Home Story Cup especially, where after being up 2 games, you know, he'll lose a few games in a row and just completely lose it and fall apart in his play, and suddenly his skill level will plummet for the rest of the series. So definitely something I think he has been improving on a little bit. Not sure if he's quite where he'd want to be just yet, though.
I think there are a couple of people who attended the WCS Season 3 finals last year in Montreal, where Drogo had a huge blow-up after he lost the games against Polt, I believe. He was up 2-0 and then ended up losing the series 2-3. And after he lost that 5th game, he was not a happy puppy. And obviously, you can expect that. I mean, if you're that close, and he was really in control of the series, he was playing out of his mind, and then suddenly it kind of fell apart. We'll see how this one goes. Super excited for it. So far, the openings, there's not a huge difference between them. It's going to get interesting when the Twilight councils are being thrown down. Obviously, right now, we're expecting Robos to go down on both sides. They will probably follow it up with a Twilight. But MaNa likes to... Photon Overcharge being used, but the Mothership Core will live. They take a lot of damage, so he has to be careful with it later on. But you know what's interesting? Because MaNa sometimes likes to get a Twilight, but he doesn't get Blink. He just goes for Resonating Glaives immediately, and then he runs across the map with a whole bunch of Adepts and Immortals and Sentries. And if you open up with Blink, like, Blink is technically supposed to be very good, but Blink is good if you start trading, if you really get up to a whole bunch of Disruptors. But against a very strong push like that, Glaives are actually quite a bit better.
Yeah, it comes down to just buying time if you end up in that position. So those are Glaive Adept pushes. You know, they fell out of fashion for a little while, but they are still exceptionally powerful. So far, both players are tied neck and neck in economy. Those Robos are done for both of them. Twilight Council's both down. It was really just typical safe Stalker expands from both players. Drogo expanded a little bit quicker, but overall, both players really respecting each other.
I think MaNa's going to go Glaives because he goes for the super early Prism, and I feel like the Prism is there to buy time. No, he's actually going to go for Blink. Let's see what Drogo decides to do. Might just be Blink as well. Maybe he's just going to try to pick off a couple of probes with a few adapts and then followed up with a strong push. Obviously, this is a big series for both of them, so being very aggressive on 2 bases, that's a very risky choice, and you want to make sure you don't overstep your boundaries.
Warp Prism is going to be picking up 2 Adepts and moving out across that map, ready to start some harassment. This is a great way to put on a lot of pressure, and if your opponent slips up a little bit with their positioning, you can punish them very hard, of course, 2-shotting those probes. Hallucinated Phoenix is going to miss that Warp Prism, but both players just scouting each other out, and you can just see the mirror at this level of play. Both of them Hallucinated Phoenix scouting at the exact same time, checking for third bases, checking the tech. They're both going to see a very similar setup from each player.
Yep, the only difference is I believe MaNa's still on 3 gases, Drogo's already on 4. Might give us the idea that MaNa wants to expand and go up to 3 bases just a tiny bit faster. Drogo did squeeze in that 4, so he's getting +1. Here we do have that very first harass. He's going to try to get, I thought maybe a sentry, but he's going to set up for 2 probes instead. Took damage on the adepts, but he didn't lose them, and that's obviously the most important thing.
Very nice there. Looks like MaNa is preparing to take a third base behind this. And there we go. Disruptor Den is going down for Drogo on his side.
Hey, what about the Colossus? Stop discriminating.
I guess, you know, Colossi, there are actually occasions in late game PvP occasionally where people will build Colossi and Legacy
It's still
of the
their
Void.
home, pig. It's still their home. Can't just call it the Disruptor Den.
Hey, it's a young man's world. The Colossi, it's like, you know, they're getting put out to field in the nursing home. It's like, just you guys can just hang out there. Not really going to call on you to fight very much anymore.
That's fine. I'm not expecting to see any Colossus either, but that's still their home. Gotta show some respect, big. You see the Robo Bay going down as well on the other side of the map for MaNa. It's going to be a tiny bit later. There's a very good chance that we're going to see some good old Disruptor Wars here. Eventually maybe a Stargate as well for Oracle, stacking that army, and that's going to be cool. I have no idea who's better when it comes to controlling Blinkstalk and Disruptor between these two. I kind of like Drogo because I think Drogo has a tiny bit more experience in playing like that. MaNa I always feel is more is strong in like these 2-base pushes and trying to hit right before it. But really when it comes to maxed out or close to being maxed out Disruptor Stalker, I tend to favor Drogo a tiny bit, but we'll see.
This is going to be a very strong push, though. MaNa has exploded his gateway count, whereas Drogo has not added extra gateways yet. He's still got a very similar army count now, but with every round of Warpins, MaNa's going to get more and more Stalkers. So Drogo is going to need to defend this very tight. And if MaNa can get a nice snipe on the third, pull back, defend his own third while adding his own Disruptors, it can work out very well.
He has to be careful, though, because the first Disruptor is already out, and Disruptors could potentially connect with these sentries. He can pick them up. No, he
big hit.
Well, he kind of avoids at least. He keeps some of the sentries alive, but there's not that much firepower.
Oh
what
my gosh, what is that blink from Drogo? Massive accident there. Blinks right in and move commands all of his Stalkers to their death. Didn't even focus fire those red hit point Immortals of MaNa. A massive blunder from Drogo.
Good focus fire there, though. He focuses down one Immortal. Now he gets the second one as well. He gets all of them. And with Photon Overcharge, now I think MaNa overextended. And suddenly I like Drogo's position quite a bit.
Oh, wow. Nice hold there from Drogo in the end, but I mean, I can't help but think that could have been a lot easier if he didn't make that huge blunder with the blink in the start. In the end, though, he's going to chase down these Stalkers from MaNa. He's going to start to chase that home. Drogo's up a couple of workers. He's got his +2 coming in as well. Yeah,
that's massive for Drogo. That really makes a big difference, especially in Disruptor Wars. If you blink forward, you try to snipe down those Disruptors. Having +2 in your Stalkers just makes it a little bit easier. There's only one way to describe that blink we saw, and that's a real patience blink.
The classic, you know, blink that we saw about 50 times back when he was winning Home Story Cup, where he never used blink to run away from his opponent. It was always to blink into his opponent, and he actually made it work really well. Hopefully Drogo doesn't get too carried away with those sort of moves anymore. Drogo already going up to Stargate and second Robo. He's really playing this super tech heavy, not building a lot of Stalkers at all.
MaNa has second Robo as well, though, so I think that's all right. I mean, that's about time. Oh, surprise Disrupted. Second Disruptor shows up as well. I think MaNa shot first. Yes, he does. Yep. But can he save his own Disruptors?
Oh, does get out of there. Nope, nice blink forward there from Drogo. That was worth it to take out that Disruptor. He's going to get a nice Disruptor shot there as well, so Drogo does chase him down. A rather even trade overall.
You know what I didn't know until like a month or two ago is that Disruptors that shoot and have their ability on cooldown look different.
I think you told me about this.
Like, that's crazy to me. For the people who don't know, you can see that this is a pretty big, glowy disruptor, right? And if you take a look at some of the other disruptors, like the bottom one can shoot. Because, well, now it can.
No, they can all now.
It just finished up. But after they shoot, they're actually not very glowy. I really didn't know this. It was like, man, this makes such a big difference. Now I know which one to snipe.
Yeah, it's actually really helpful in these early skirmishes when you've only got 3, 4, 5 disruptors. It can be really awkward to figure out which one's fired and which one hasn't. But a cute little thing there. Nice Adept Shade in from Drogo. Going to get some probes here. He is going to do a nice little bit of damage. And behind this, Drogo, I feel like he's just got the better setup overall. 4th base is on the way. His +2 is finished already. He's now adding on extra gateways. Drogo really controlling the pace of this game.
I like Warp Prism speed, though. That's kind of cool. Yeah, Drogo's doing some serious work with these adepts, getting 6 probe kills in total, and he's still doing some more work. Might be able to pick up 1 more. At the same time, MaNa's moving forward with his big army. Let's take a look at that, because if he can get a cancel on this fort, that would obviously be big. It's a lot of stock. He's going to do the Disrupted draw, but good blink there by Drogo. He gets the Disruptor, he gets the Prism, but I believe that was a no cancel on the next. Oh, that's a big shot!
Oh
my God.
Shots there from MaNa, but all of his Disruptors do get focused down. Does Drogo still has that one last? Oh! All of his Disruptor shots are on cooldown. MaNa's going to pounce on top. He's going to focus them down. All of the Disruptor shots have been used up by Drogo. This game gets turned upside down. 2 more Disruptors come into the fray. They both fire at the same time, but they only take out 3 Stalkers. Oh man, MaNa's Disruptor shot gets a few Stalkers as well. MaNa, he wants to get the damage done here and now. Great splits. Does cancel the 4th base, but he's going to have to back off.
Madness, big madness. Obviously, that was very good for MaNa in the end, because he was kind of in a rough position. I still think he's in a little bit of a rough position, even though he has a fort, but he doesn't have +2. He does have a bigger army, and he does have double robo as well, so he can catch up in Disruptors. I don't understand why Drogo's Stalker count is so low if he's rushing up +2. That doesn't make sense.
Yeah, and this is the thing. Like I kept mentioning, his gateway count has been low for so long. He keeps spending on upgrades, but he's not actually constantly warping in off his gateways. Drogo now, from such a great position early, just playing so tech-heavy. Oh, does get a nice Disruptor shot there, but MaNa's coming in with his own Disruptors. MaNa is up 30 supply right now. He has double the army supply.
Oh, another drop there as well. Good connection. Gets a lot of these Disruptors, and I think that could very well be it.
I think that's it right there. MaNa here with some decisive moves.
Sick.
And Drogo, with a few blunders throughout this game, takes a massive lead and just throws it away. MaNa jumping on top of the opportunity.
Yep, with Photon Overcharges though, that actually looked a little bit decent. That Disruptor will not shoot, but the Warpins are just massive. MaNa having so many gates. What's the gateway count right now before this game ends? Structure count. You're looking at, well, actually, it's only 7 against 6. It just feels like these stuff.
He just added them in very late, and then he blinked in on top of those Disruptor shots and lost about 16 Stalkers in one moment. So ever since then, MaNa's been constantly warping in. He's carried through that advantage despite being down in upgrades. And another great Disruptor shot from MaNa. The last couple of units of Drogo do go down. And what a turnaround from our Polish Protoss player.
That was sick. Getting Warp Prism speed, flying in near that fort base after he just lost some probes at home. Drops the Disruptor. Drogo makes a perfect blink there where he gets the Prism and he gets the Disruptor as well. You think like, that's really good. And then he chases and suddenly out of nowhere more Disruptors show up from MaNa, and MaNa gets the most beautiful hits he could have dreamed of. And even there in the very end, even though MaNa was in the lead there, he did it again, and that's when he blew up those 5 Disruptors, and that was awesome.
And now it all comes down to what Drogo does inside his head, inside his thought process. How does he reset after that game? He had that narrow loss in Game 2 against Triang. Now here, being in such a good position and falling away from that, there was that one blink over the force fields where it was just a terrible blunder. There's no ifs and buts. There was no plan there. That must have been a misclick.
I think he wanted to get the Prism, maybe because I think
it just made no sense though to do that, like because you could see him move commanding, and then he was in range of the Prism, and it still just made like no sense.
Yeah, I do agree with you, Pick. Don't get me wrong. I was like, whoa, that's a crazy patient blink right there.
Yeah.
But at the same time, in the end, that went all right for him because he got all the Immortals. Because I think MaNa overextended, was I think in range of a Photon Overcharge.
Yeah.
And Drogo had good focus fire with his own 2 Immortals. And suddenly he was able to defend, having the fort, and he killed that entire army. So yeah, that blink was crazy. I mean, I'm not disagreeing with you. I was like, whoa, that's a sick blink. But that's not where it went wrong.
Yeah, I mean, I think he would have been even further ahead if he didn't take that blink. Because, I mean, he wasted a lot of Stalkers there. Maybe if MaNa backs off, things work out okay. I definitely agree. Obviously, the bigger problem was later on when he was getting pushed. But really, I think there was just that classic issue of maybe sitting back a little bit too long. But nonetheless, guys, we'll debate that more a little bit in the early game here. For now, spawning in the bottom right-hand side of Belshir Vestige, representing Team Liquid, the Polish Protoss player, it is MaNa.
MaNa looks focused, man. He looks in the zone. I was a little worried after he dropped from the upper bracket to the lower bracket, but he's been on an absolute roll. All of his games have looked very good, but he's not done with this man yet. He's absolutely capable of making a comeback. Representing my insanity, it's PtitDrogo. Losing 3 games in a row does always sting, and Drogo obviously coming pretty fresh off that 0-2 loss. Meanwhile, MaNa had plenty of time to forget about those games against Guru, and he's been on a little bit of a roll. I think MaNa won his last 5 right now, and that always feels good.
Back to what we were talking about that last game before and Drogo's situation in general, I think sometimes if there's a weakness of Drogo, it's that he plays a little bit like how IDRA used to play. In that he tries to play a perfect defensive game. He kind of has this idea of sitting back and defending and getting ahead and always using the defender's advantage. And I kind of feel like, especially with disruptor battles, because there's, you know, they're so sudden, the game can shift one way or another. I feel like if you're attacking and you're pressuring your opponent, you give yourself more space, more time to react, you scout their army ahead of time, and you can sort of choose when the battles happen, how to be looking at them. I feel like Drogo was in such a good position, but going straight to a Stargate, a 4th base, I kind of wish he just put down a few extra gateways, warped in 1 or 2 rounds of Stalkers, and start hitting maybe with a Stalker hit squad on a probe line, he had those Adepts in the middle line, but get onto the map, create some space, and then even if you have to fall back, you've got so much room to fall back, you can bait out disruptor shots, and there's so many different options you can do there.
He was obviously caught out of position on his own fort, right? Because his army was on the north side of the fort, and that just allowed MaNa to get the position that he wanted. In the end, Drogo handled it all right in the beginning, but when he started chasing and he ate 2 massive disruptor hits, from that point it went all downhill. A lot of pressure right now on him. We know that Drogo is one of those guys that really doesn't settle for an okay showing, playing a couple of decent games. Like, that does not satisfy this man. Drogo is here for only one reason, and that's he wants to at least make the group stage. But even if it doesn't matter which group you put him in, Drogo will expect himself to at least make it out of it. You know, he doesn't have to win the group, but he should finish top 3 in whatever group you put him. Because the way he sees it is like, otherwise, why am I playing this game? Why am I trying to be a competitor? Like, I don't want to finish top 36, you know? I don't want to finish top 24. He wants to make, you know, a top 8 in a tournament like this.
Stalker's skirmish is about to start here. MaNa getting the upper end of this. He's going to be able to put some hurt on one of those Stalkers of Drogo. Drogo, that Stalker getting deep in the orange, and the other one going to take a lot of hits as well. His other 2 Stalkers will reinforce, but already a good opening up here, considering both players are reasonably mirrored.
Yep, that's nice for MaNa, but MaNa's not really able to do that much with that little advantage he just created for himself, because he can't run up that ramp, and it takes too long for your own extra units to show up, and obviously you can't fight with 2 against 4. So even though that is nice, that really shouldn't have that big of an impact on the game.
Of course, the problem here for Drogo is he doesn't get to scout for proxies as well, doesn't get quite as much map vision.
Wow, that's so fast.
Did Drogo see the natural expansion of MaNa? That's something I would love to see. Thank you very much to Observer. No, you see, yeah, absolutely no map vision, so Drogo really doesn't know what's coming. Whereas MaNa, he's like, yeah, you're expanding, you've gone a few Stalkers, I've checked everywhere for proxies, I'm just going to go straight up into disruptor drops.
Do you think this is War Prism speed even?
I think so, yeah. I mean, I think this is just going to be straight up old school disruptor drop style, right?
Could be.
Colossus drop!
No, out of all the options, that's the least likely one. Even some Immortal drop. I mean, if Drogo is going to have Blink as late as he had it in the last game, which, you know, was a little bit late, I actually think even with 2 Immortals, you can really do some work. But he doesn't have any Immortals, so it seems unlikely after opening up with the Prism. Probably going to be disrupted drops with the Speed Prism indeed. That's sick. Cool build by MaNa. Very, very cool stuff. And if you don't, I mean, it's Robo before Twilight, which means that the blink is obviously going to be very late for Drogo. This is hard to deal with. This is very hard to deal with. At the same time, it's also hard to execute.
Well, both players looking for each other's observers over here. Drogo, he's got his observer on the defensive. He's going to have to rely on his hallucinations to scout. Drogo just building up Immortals, just playing very defensively and safe for now.
Does MaNa have Stalkers on the north side of his main? I think he saw that hallucinated... No, he didn't see it leave. Never mind. He has no idea. That was the wrong observer.
No worries. Yeah, that is going to get a full scout. That's really important for Drogo to get a bit of warning. The moment he sees that, he should know exactly what he's up against. These disruptor drops, it's all about positioning, trying to spread your probes out a little bit and just making sure you don't eat any really nasty shots into your probe lines.
Yeah, already getting a pylon on the outskirts of his main. But 1 or 2 shots can already make the difference. Look at those sentries, Big!
Oh!
No, that could have been a lot worse.
3 probes, a decent start, but nothing too game-ending for now. Blink is on the way for both players, +1 already on the way for Drogo. Really prioritizing these upgrades in this matchup. Not something I see too often lately.
I don't mind it, but I would like to see him add those extra gates, like he said multiple times. It doesn't make sense to prioritize upgrades, but then be down in the Stalker count all the time. He's going to try again. Well, doesn't get much there. Gets a sentry, that's it. Oh, Photon. Oh, no, there's no pylon there. That would have been painful.
Is just going to be settling for these small pickups for now. Of course, the Warp Prism with the Disruptor can be very frustrating later on as well, because you can come in on a flank, drop a Disruptor, and just wipe out all of your opponent's units. So that's a constant threat which Drogo has to worry about from now on.
Indeed. +1 is about to finish up for our French Protoss, who's just going to add a whole bunch of gateways. He doesn't want to go up to the Robo Bay pick. Maybe he just wants to run across the map and see what he can do with a bunch of Blink Stalkers.
Yeah. He just walked in a lot of sentries as well, so he's really committing to this.
He's got 2 Immortals, is that correct? Drogo, 3. Okay.
0 Immortals for MaNa as well.
That's sick, actually. Then I really like this call for Drogo. I mean, at the end of the day, it comes down to execution, it comes down to the Disruptor hits, but I can absolutely see his move out work.
Yeah, he sees that army. He's like, hey, no sentries, no Immortals. Force fields combined with the Immortals are going to be very powerful. A whole bunch of probes did just go down to another Disruptor shot, though. So
on the left side,
that Disruptor has really been racking up the kills. That's going to force Drogo's hand. It really makes him very eager to get a lot of damage done with this. Of course, he's got a 3rd Nexus. He can transition behind this, but he is not building probes for it. He is committing hard to this.
Oh, if he gets the Prism, that would be so big. He gets the Prism!
Oh, massive! But
he has no
his blink isn't done. The force field, the Immortals just shred. Almost every single Stalker goes down. I think that's a bit too much damage there.
At the same time, though, can you attack without a Prism? I mean, obviously that's not a good trade. I know, well, that's a good trade. But he is buying time for himself.
Oh!
And in a way, you could say that time is all that MaNa needs. How high is this Disruptor count? Is it 4 right now? Soon 5? Oh, the sentries!
Good spread there from Drogo, and nice blink to start chasing off that Prism. He can shove in here. There's only 1 Disruptor shot active right now on that northernmost Disruptor. He might even blink on top of it. It looks like, oh, blinks away, does only lose 1 Stalker, focuses down 1 Disruptor, focuses down another. Oh, wow, the Mothership Core is nowhere near here right now. I'm not even sure if he has one. There it is. It's rotating in at this moment, but Drogo taking some very nice trades, and he's already beginning to probe up behind this.
Does he have 2 shots right now or 3? Take a look. Okay, he has all 3. All 3 Disruptors are ready to shoot. And he could potentially go for a flank again. This is still risky for Drogo because he's got so many sentries.
Yeah, this is very scary. MaNa with a bit of a crazy blink there.
No, don't. Why would he shoot both?
2 Disruptor, and that one's exposed. Drogo, he does manage to focus it down just before it sets off. Blinks forward, goodbye. The other Disruptor goes down. One of them is saved to the back. The overcharge does a little bit there, but no! The second overcharge doesn't even get off. Drogo tearing MaNa apart. What a decisive push.
Yeah, I think that's game right now. There's no answer against these 3 Immortals unless only a few more Disruptors show up. But 1 Disruptor is not supposed to save the day. Oh, those Stalkers! Man, they get
great focus fire.
That +1. That +1 pick.
Just shutting down these Disruptors before they can get the damage done. 1 more Disruptor. It's hoping for the money shot. It doesn't get it. And it looks like Drogo, he's just going to blink forward. The Nexus is going to go down. Already all the probes have fallen here on the 3rd. And MaNa is deep in trouble. His only hope now is for Drogo to just clump up his entire army right on top of the next Disruptor shot.
Yeah, and that one is not even available, as we can see that Disruptor is not glowing.
There we go, the fire is refueled, it's ready. But will it be able to get the shot that it needs? MaNa desperately blink microing as hard as he can. He's down 30 army supply right now, +2 against no upgrades for MaNa.
I think even if he gets the absolute best possible shot, it's not enough. Maybe if he get 2, and then he can somehow clean up the Immortals, but you can see that MaNa's facial reactions as well. He knows that this one is pretty much over, that he lost this one, which didn't have to happen.
Oh, that's a nice shot. Good start.
It's a big hit, but there's still 3 Immortals alive.
Oh, nice focus fire from Drogo. Doesn't let that second shot get off. Great targeting. The second natural base of MaNa is going to go down. MaNa with a nice little counterattack, desperately fighting back here from behind. There is one player who never gives up and always tries to make it as close as possible, no matter how far behind they are. It is MaNa.
Oh, so close.
One shot, enough Stalkers to just shoot down that Disruptor instantly. And Drogo, good decisive play there. I like that call to go for that push.
Yeah, this is kind of what we expected between these two, right? We just know that they're pretty damn evenly matched, and we know that this is going to be a slugfest, and it's very hard to call who's going to take this series. That was an awesome game by Drogo. Just great reaction against the very first disrupted drops. He really didn't lose much. First time he lost 3 probes, then he lost his sentry. There was one disrupted drop we didn't see. He lost 5 workers, but by then he was already getting ready to move out. And I really like that call. He's got 3 Immortals against a player that has no Immortals. And yes, disruptors are great, but 3 Immortals in that phase in a game, you really have to respect it as well.
Exactly, man. Those Immortals and Blink not being finished.
Yeah.
Like, imagine if he just gets the Prism, blinks all those Stalkers. I mean, instead he lost like 10 Stalkers, I think, went down. Oh, that was brutal for MaNa. Of course, he didn't see the army moving up. It was just fortuitous and also very bad luck at the same time that he went up and snapped the Prism down. But Drogo, very decisive with that push. Very powerful play. A good recovery after game number 1. Of course, game number 1 did let it out of his grasp. But right now, he is 1 game away from going into that final qualification match where he will be facing off against Guru. A quick update from the other side of the bracket. Guru did take down Namshar 2-0.
Really?
Yep, you can see Namshar there actually on your screen looking a little bit you know, frustrated, absorbing that defeat, unfortunately. But Guru has just been on fire today. I mean, he looked really good against Patience as well. So whoever wins, whether it be MaNa or Drogo, they are going to be facing off against the Polish player Guru.
That's gonna be a very fun last series of the day as well. It doesn't really matter who wins it, whether it's Drogo or MaNa. Of course, the winner of that series will qualify for the group stage of the Intel Extreme Masters World Championship, already guaranteeing themselves $1,000, but having the chance to win so much more and go up against world's best. There's no other way to put it. We've got the absolute best players in the world here, pretty much. It's going to be so much fun. That's going to be happening on Thursday and Friday. And then I believe Saturday we'll do quarterfinals, and then maybe Sunday semifinals, finals, something along those lines.
I believe that is pretty much it, Rotterdam. That is what these players are fighting for, the chance to get into the big arena in the Spodek Stadium. And this player wants it so much here in his home country of Poland. Representing Team Liquid, it is MaNa.
Very successful StarCraft II player over the years. Definitely had his ups and downs, but one of the biggest ups he ever had was playing here in Katowice or Krakow. You know, the cities are very close to each other. And that was, of course, WCS season 3 2015, one of my favorite tournaments of all time.
And he was playing a Frenchman there in the finals as well.
I know, good old Lilbal. This is a friend of Lilbal, a very good friend, a man that has lived with Lilbal, spawning on the right bottom side of Cactus Valley. It is PtitDrogo.
Little Dragon.
Yeah, we actually thought after he would win the tournament, when he won DreamHack, that he might change his name to Big Dragon. Or just Dragon. But he's like, nah, I'll stay with the little.
I can respect that. I mean, everyone would still call him PtitDrogo, even if he changed it, I reckon.
But a lot of people already call him Drogo, because PtitDrogo is kind of...
Yeah, that's true, actually.
Yeah, he's kind of known as...
He didn't want to go full Kangho, man.
Maybe if he wins a GSL or something, that's when he goes Drogo.
Drogo.
Because only that.
How do you say big in French? Actually, like big?
I don't know. We need thought for that. And
Right,
even
well,
after we would repeat him, he would just shake his head and be like, "You guys can speak French. This is terrible. This is not how I sound." Who do you think is going to take it, Pig? Make a prediction. I want to hear it.
I have, you know, I have faith in Drogo, but MaNa on Polish soil always destroys my predictions. I always feel bad when I bet against MaNa, but I just think overall Drogo lives up to his skill a little bit more frequently than MaNa from the matches that I watch. So I think Drogo has the edge here, but it's cross-map Cactus Valley, it's PvP, anything can happen. There's a lot of decisions to be made. Interestingly, MaNa not going for that Mothership core yet. I think we might see a Stargate going down.
This is not a bad map for Stargates, actually.
Yeah, it's
I wouldn't mind seeing it at all. I think we've seen a lot of Phoenix play here in the past. Obviously, an Oracle opening is perfectly fine too. It truly comes down to what a player likes. You know, when you want to play on this level, you can't just be like, oh, you know what? I'll go Phoenix because, you know, my friend called Adam told me that Phoenix is pretty good on this map, so I'm gonna give it a go. Like,
I watch this guy stream, Rotterdam, and he wins every game with Phoenix. So
you know it, Biggie, you know it. No, it's something you truly need to feel comfortable with, even if everybody universally agrees and says, hey, if you want to play this matchup, this is the best style. If you're not feeling comfortable with it and that's not your style, you can't just suddenly do that and expect to have a lot of success with it. You really need to do what you feel best with. We see both players expand for now. I don't know, double sentry is going to be the follow-up for MaNa. So I don't know. I would actually like to see maybe a Twilight before a Robo, just to find some crazy opening. But how much do you want to gamble, right? Tournament Live is on the line here, lower bracket, very big series. So it's just going to be super safe and sound with Robos on each side.
Sometimes I feel like I see too many PvPs where the openings look like this in the European meta. Whereas I feel like there needs to be like a hero, like a root hero. But oh, the fighting is going to start out here. Nice opening from MaNa. Does have the quicker focus fire. Manages to get the Stalker advantage there. And Drogo is going to have to disengage, of course, this forward pile on these Stalkers. This is very threatening. I don't know if this is actually just a fake out.
I don't really get it either. I mean, obviously MaNa doesn't know, right? Did MaNa scout with a probe? What is that? Is it 2 Adepts?
Yeah, so he just wants to shade the Adepts into the main and try to get some poking damage done. It's like a small commitment, but it looks like losing that early Stalker just takes the steam out of this.
Yep, I mean, obviously MaNa can just keep the Mothership core in the main. It's a tiny bit out of position, and he can just defend with the remaining units over here. Yeah. Force Fields could cut off a couple of Stalkers. Ooh, got very close there. It did not happen in the end. Photon Overcharge should be activated almost immediately. One probe does fall. Good movement, at least on the Adepts. He should be able to shade out. Maybe get on top of a sentry, or maybe just try to save it. But MaNa is not going to let it escape. I think MaNa is handling this very well.
Really good trades for him so far. However, in the work account, Drogo has actually been using the power of this aggression, the threat, to just comfortably macro up behind it, whilst MaNa has been a little bit afraid of this push, and he actually froze up his probe production. So Drogo has actually gained an economic advantage out of this, but he's down on the army right now.
Yep, and he's going to lose that pylon as well. And don't forget, sentries are also gathering energy, so that's also one thing that works in MaNa's favor. Drogo is going to do, I think, what MaNa did in the last game, as he's going to make a Warp Prism, the Robotics base finishing up, so maybe he's going to be the one playing Speed Prism, Disrupted drops.
I'd actually like to see Immortals, to be honest, but I think you are correct. Roddy does look like, Speed Prism. This is so odd to see this 2 games in a row. This is something which we do not see as often anymore, but he's going to be going for it. Drogo right now down a lot of army supply, so he really does have to watch out against a Sentry Immortal push, especially with the narrow choke point on the natural. It can be a little bit afraid.
Absolutely. MaNa's already making a prism. If MaNa just runs across the map and he's avoiding the Salnaga Watchtower, I think this is very good. Obviously, Drogo could potentially get a big hit with his Warp Prism Disruptor on the other side of the map, but if MaNa really goes for it, Drogo's going to have no army. Look at it, 23 army supply. 2 of it is in a Warp Prism, 3 of it is going to be in a Disruptor. That's all going to be on the other side of the map.
Yeah, this is going to time out perfectly for MaNa, Roddy.
That's so sick.
This is disastrous for Drogo. This is such bad luck for him. He's got another Disruptor on the way, but he's just got no units. He's not warping in at all.
Obviously, the Disruptors defensively are going to be super powerful because there is like no blink, and it's going to be very hard to split your units. There is a good chance the Warp Prism on the other side of the map is going to get a massive hit.
He's not even going to get a chance to land the overcharges, though. These Immortals are going to blast through these pylons before he even has a chance to react. Drogo only sees it right now. The pylons are already gone. There's no chance to overcharge. His units are trapped in the back of his natural. What can his Disruptor do? This is disastrous for Drogo. MaNa just pouncing on top of the opportunity. All the probes are forced to pull into the action.
And the Warp Prism shows up as well with a few additional adapts, so these probes really won't cause any trouble. Here is the one Disruptor. Can it get the best shot ever? Gets a decent shot, but Drogo needed a lot more than that after losing 18 workers. And he's probably going to end up losing the Nexus, and maybe this is it, not a good force field by MaNa.
MaNa taking control of this game, dodging Drogo's vision around the edges of the map, blindsides Drogo with his powerful timing attack, and takes the victory 2-1. The Polish player will be progressing to the final qualifying match against his countryman Guru.
Talking about ballsy, everything that MaNa did there in that final game, it's so risky. Because if Drogo has his Disruptor at home, if he has a good defensive setup there with a couple of force fields, he will take 0 damage. MaNa ran across the map for absolutely no reason, and suddenly this game becomes very complicated for MaNa, and there is no way that with an army without Blink, you can break a defensive Protoss with 2 Disruptors. Like, you gotta feel for Drogo there, man. He got incredibly unlucky, but at the same time, very good moves by MaNa.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, you know, the opening aggression didn't really quite work out for Drogo. It's very hard when you don't do that well with the early aggression because your sentries are delayed. The sentries, you know, you don't get your hallucination out there on time. And when you go for that disruptor drop, it really is something which doesn't help your frontal army when it's on the other side of the map. And it's such a huge investment which won't pay off until after you've had a chance to do a few waves of drops with it. So Drogo there unfortunately not making it work out, and I like MaNa's decisiveness there. He saw, okay, you're really trying to control the tower. I already shut down your pressure. I've made a lot of army units. Let's just go for this push. And that's a strong push. This is something we see a lot of the top Korean players mix in these Immortal Sentry pushes, and it just works out really well there.
I couldn't agree more. Fun series. MaNa will get a shot at redemption as he's going to go up against Guru one more time. Good news for all the Polish fans at least, Pick. Whoever wins, we're going to have one more Polish player making it to the group stage of the Intox 3 Masters World Championship. But it's first time for a little break, and after that, we'll be back with more StarCraft.